Welcome back to Rare Elvis Photos. I hope you've enjoyed the readings that we've had earlier today of Are You Lonesome Tonight? And I know that everybody's sad that we're done with Elvis and Kathy. And I do want to give a shout out to, once again, to all the new subscribers on the channel, to the members that are on the channel, to those of you that are leaving comments continually, to those of you that say made it to the end, and get to the very end of the video to really help rank the videos up and to really capture everything that these books have. If you don't watch the end, you don't get everything and you miss certain things. So you can always go back and rewatch them, or if you can only watch half of it and watch the other half later, of course. So thank you once again, and those that are leaving super thanks, I appreciate that. It's humbling to me that y'all do that for me. And looking forward to reading a lot of books. And like I said, I know that y'all are sad that Elvis and Kathy is over, but at the same time, it was a great journey. We learned some new things about Elvis and Kathy Westmoreland and them together. The great thing about these books is we can kind of use it to research, to compare from book to book. Excuse me. What we think are facts, what we think are fabrications. And that's why Child Bride is so important. This is a book that the author and the publishing clearinghouse did not get sued. But Curry Grant did, who provided a lot of information in this. And, but later on, well, first off, he was never made to pay for the lawsuit. In fact, he was given money afterwards by Priscilla for the photos that he took of her. The photos that she claimed never existed, that couldn't have existed because Elvis had banished Curry Grant out of his life and her life. So it sounds like hush money to me, and he's not allowed to speak to anybody about it. So even if I reach out to Curry Grant, he can't talk to me about it because he's got an NDA. Which tells me, at least in my mind, how guilty Priscilla is. That these things that are written in this book have to be true because she's not letting him talk about it. And furthermore, Darby Shaw posted something on Facebook the other day, and she shared something from, I believe it was Photoplay magazine, maybe 1978. That talked about this in advance of this book. This is 1997 that talked about Curry introducing Elvis and also maybe making the wedding happen. I'll share it and we'll take a look at it and we'll read it. Okay. The information's out there if you look deep enough. So let's get into doing some reading here. This is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book, in my opinion. Maybe it's not as heartwarming as you want it to be, but it really, really, if I can show you, all the sources. These are just pages and pages and pages of sources. This is a very well-researched, sourced-out book. So we ended with chapter 19, and now we're chapter 20. And she titled this Mail Order Bride. And once again, Suzanne Finstead's not an Elvis fan, or wasn't when she started out with this book. It was really a book that was supposed to be about Priscilla, the details, how secretive she was. So it starts out, Priscilla Bobblehead flew back to Germany in January 1963, much as she had the previous June, in a state of utter panic and bewilderment, a puppet in the hands of her overly ambitious parents. She told a close friend she was afraid that they were going to make her go back and stay all the time. This was the contrapuntal opposite of Elvis and Priscilla's legend, where Priscilla described herself as obsessively driven to move into Graceland that January. The myth was that Priscilla confided first in her mother and gradually revealed Elvis's invitation to her father, supposedly starving herself, withdrawing, cutting class, failing in school, and threatening to run away in order to coerce her parents into her allowing her to rejoin Elvis. Yet, the dean of girls at H. Arnold, Jackie Momberg, had no records of absences for Priscilla during that spring semester, and her classmates did not recall her missing anything. She was always with Jamie by their recollection, and for the first time in her high school life, Priscilla was actually participating in school activities because Jamie did. She was never rebellious, insisted her friend from that year, Judy Comstock. I don't remember it. Another confidant reported that there was never any convincing. That isn't true. That is part of the manufactured story. I mean, come on. Who is defending Priscilla? Is there anybody that has come out from her past that says, oh yeah, this was all true, what she wrote in her book? Everybody's opposite. Everybody. Friends, boyfriends, lovers. So, the truth, according to Jamie and the few others who knew Priscilla well, was that Priscilla's parents were concerned that she was getting too close to Jamie, and they were pressuring Priscilla to move to Graceland to sustain the romance with Presley. Think about this. What would have happened if Priscilla got pregnant by Jamie? Elvis's whole life would have changed. We don't know how it would have ended up. Perhaps he would have been with somebody else, maybe Lucy Barban from the book we're reading. Perhaps not. But certainly, his whole life would have changed. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. And I say that not because I support the idea of Elvis and Priscilla, but gosh, we had the 68 comeback special, right? Would that still have happened? You know, we know that everything you do, every path you go down in life leads you to a different path. Maybe he wouldn't have needed the 68 comeback special, right? Maybe it would have been something else, like a phenomenal movie. Maybe it would have been something else. I don't know. We know that that Priscilla and Parker split up Elvis and Larry Geller. That would have never happened. So what would the path have been? I mean, who knows? I mean, the possibilities are endless. I mean, that's where you write books of fiction about it, right? You know. All right. I'm sure, actually positive in retrospect, that was the case, Jamie affirmed. She kind of got caught up in a very enthusiastic mom who had great plans for her, and that's how she ended up there. Priscilla told Jamie that she did not want to go to Memphis and feared that she might be making the worst mistake of her life. We were real serious, he asserted. And she's saying, I can't believe it. I'm going to be giving up all of this for a buffoon. Ooh, my goodness. I mean, I've got so many thoughts, and I know you have so many thoughts. That's why it's hard to keep reading. If she said that, Priscilla, are you going to sue Jamie for saying that? He quoted you as, she's saying, I can't believe it. I'm going to be maybe giving up all of this for a buffoon. Was it really a full setup from her parents and her to get him to marry her, which took a lot longer, right, than she probably thought, to get the money, to get the fame, to trap him? Was it that? Let me comment about it. Let me know what you think. But let me try. I'm going to try to get through this without having to stop so much. Another friend who knew the situation between Priscilla and Jamie described her as anxious that winter, concerned that she would be unhappy and unfulfilled at Graceland. She didn't want to be forced into it. I knew that. She knew that she would be stuck someplace where she wouldn't get to do anything. But Priscilla Bobblehead wasn't too deep. Her relationship with Elvis was like a runaway train, and she was powerless to stop its momentum. My impression has always been that she was like a little high school girl, and I don't think she wanted to step out of that environment at all, recounted Jamie. But I think that her mom more or less said, you're going. Jamie's recollection was seconded by a confidant of Priscilla's from that year and the year before. The real reason for her coming back to Memphis has never been published. The reason that has been given is not a true reason. And Jamie does have something to do with the true reason. She did not want to go back. She was sent back. There was a very great danger that she was not going to marry Elvis. And Jamie had a lot to do with that. And her parents thought it best to get her out of Wiesbaden. In fact, she did not want to go. According to Priscilla's friend and bobblehead, was orchestrating the impending move to Memphis. Priscilla did not leave on her own. She was forced. She and Jamie were growing too close, and her mother was afraid that she was going to throw Elvis over for Jamie. That is the truth, and I am absolutely certain. The legend of the ever-faithful Priscilla living for the moment that she could join Elvis at Graceland was just that. A legend. The romantic invention of a young woman desperate to disguise her real history. Or as her friend described it, the manufactured past of a celebrity. Priscilla and her parents were experts in maintaining a fiction. They had been doing it since Priscilla was 3. Concealing her real identity, but it's also likely that Priscilla was highly flattered by Elvis's affections and unable to say no to his invitation. After all, now this is Suzanne Finstead's opinion, right? Not the people. The people around her said she didn't want to go. Suzanne has given her the benefit of the doubt because Suzanne likes Priscilla, or she liked her. But it's also likely, Suzanne said, that Priscilla was highly flattered by Elvis's affections and unable to say no to his invitation. After all, he was one of the most desirable men in the world, and she was a high school senior, dazzled by that sort of fame and fortune. More importantly, it was part of the plan that she had since childhood. Sometime in mid-March, a special arrangement was made between the bobbleheads and Elvis Presley. The exact terms may never be known, but they included Priscilla completing the remaining few weeks of her senior year at a Catholic girls' school and ostensibly moving in with Elvis's father, Vernon, and his wife, Dee, who lived in a smaller house on the Graceland compound with Dee's 3 young sons by her first husband. According to Priscilla, in her most recent account, the deciding factor, I think, was the fact that I would get to stay with Vernon and Dee, and that it was a Catholic school, and that it was a girls' school. Elvis had found the school, and he enrolled me in the school that and told me I would be staying with Dee and Vernon. They had their 3 children there, and he lived close to them, and that he did plan on marrying me, and he didn't give me a time. He just said, "I want her here." That's according to Priscilla, right? The bobbleheads had in effect made an arranged marriage. For their daughter. Priscilla recalled her friend Judy was certain she would marry Elvis sometime after she moved to Memphis, and the singer told his stepmother Dee at the time that he had promised Priscilla's father he would marry her. Al Corey, who had shared confidences with Priscilla for 2 years, did not feel she was in love with Elvis Presley. She got sold, he said. Few people in Wiesbaden knew that Priscilla was even thinking of leaving that winter. She attended school in Germany throughout January, February, and early March, and was seen everywhere with Jamie Lindbergh. As the situation with Elvis became clear to Jamie in the middle of March, he invited Priscilla on a last date to a beer festival, telling her that he would practice his German so he could make an announcement at the festival to the whole state of Germany that she was leaving. And she laughed. She says, "All right, we'll go." I said, "Great." A few hours later, she calls back, and she was crying a little bit. And she says, "My mom won't let me go." She was really out of sorts, so that was it. That was the last time Jamie Lindbergh talked to Priscilla in Germany. Must have talked to her afterwards. Last time, we'll find out, maybe. Ronnie Garland and Barney Williams' sister, Liz, were 2 of the first friends that were two of the few friends that Priscilla bobblehead entrusted with the information that she was leaving that March. Liza's mother gave a small going away party for Priscilla. She told everyone that she was going back to the States to finish high school with friends of her parents, said Ronnie. That's what we were told. There was a great deal of speculation, though. Ronnie thought Priscilla seemed distressed. I'm sure she said something. I remember one day she wanted to come to my house to listen to records, and I said, sure. She said, I need to get out of here, but I can't get past my daddy unless we go out the window. And she said, let's just tell him we're going to make a walk. Take a walk. She put a scarf on, and we walked out. She said she was going away to finish high school with friends of her parents. She was not real overjoyed, though, you know. Paul Bobblehead, by contrast, appeared thrilled to Ronnie. He, let's put it this way, was a very strange man. Priscilla Bobblehead was spirited out of her parents' home in Wiesbaden in March. There was a sense of urgency at the departure. Y'all mind if I say Priscilla Bobblehead? Or should I say Prissy Bobblehead? Let me know in the comments. I mean, I can change it. I mean, Priscilla Bobblehead's working, but Prissy Bobblehead has a ring to it, right? It wasn't like she's going. It was kind of like she's gone. It was kind of like she was gone, remember Jane Bregner? Priscilla did not even inform her classmates that she would not be completing a group project. She, disappeared one week and said a close friend. I remember what she was doing, and suddenly she was gone. And she was aware that could happen. No one heard from Priscilla. She was just bundled up, and she didn't come back. Judy Comstock, who considered Priscilla a good friend, felt betrayed. That actually really hurt me. It hurt me that she didn't say goodbye. The timing of the move, in addition to its suddenness, was curious. Spring break was a few weeks away, a logical time to transfer in mid-semester. School would be out for the summer in less than 2 months. Why, after Elvis and Priscilla had been apart for 4 years, the sudden pressure to transfer Priscilla to another high school with less than 6 weeks left in her senior year? That's not really 4 years. If you think about it, March of 60? Or January, I think it was March of 60 left Germany. We're talking 63. Somebody didn't do the math here. Sorry, Suzanne, you didn't do the math right. It's not 4 years, it's definitely 3. What was the urgency? Priscilla seemed not to know years later how that weekend was even selected. There are those who contend that Priscilla Bobblehead's parents sold her into marriage, or at least the promise of marriage, to Elvis Presley, the most popular rock and roll singer in the world. I really believe that there was money involved in having Priscilla sent to Tennessee, Al Corey posited. I mean, I never saw anybody go to the bank, but I suspect that. Mike Stone, Prissy's lover following her divorce from Elvis, was among those who wondered. There are a lot of things that are a mystery to me still. In the entire 5 years they were together, Prissy never told him how or why it was arranged that she should go to Memphis. Still was, and still and ever, the secret keeper. But I think she wasn't aware of some of the things that may have taken place. And if she was, she probably did not want to talk about it. She and her parents, Mike observed, had kind of a strange relationship. Mike believed that Prissy was a pawn in some sort of game that she didn't understand where Elvis was concerned. I was surprised when she was permitted to go to Graceland, commented Priscilla's principal of the previous 2 years, John Reddington, who had met with Captain Bobblehead about Prissy. And this is my only reaction. It seems to me to be a crass, shallow reaction in allowing the daughter to cue herself into fame and riches at a tender age. There was another oddity concerning Prissy's departure date. Paul Bobblehead had already received notice from the Air Force that he and his family would be transferred to California in June. Only 9 weeks away. Prissy could have completed her last 6 weeks of school in Wiesbaden and then flown to the United States with her family. Were the Bobbleheads concerned that Prissy might reject Elvis for Jamie? Were they concerned that Elvis's attention might wander if he didn't get what he wanted right away? Why would Paul Bobblehead have agreed to withdraw Prissy from high school and obtained special military leave to fly her to the United States in mid-March when he would have been taking her there anyways in June. We always wondered about that too, conceded classmate Donna Polland. It seemed very odd. Elvis's circumstances that March made the timing even more suspicious, for he was in Los Angeles filming a movie, Fun in Acapulco, and would not return to Graceland until June, after Priscilla would have graduated with her class from H.H. Arnold. We got to research that. For some reason in my mind, didn't Elvis pick her up from school graduation? Bought her car? I mean, maybe they got done filming early. Interesting. All of Wiesbaden was gossiping about Priscilla's mysterious departure, with Americans and Germans alike eyeing the Babaloos disapprovingly for sending their 17-year-old daughter to live with a 28-year-old rock star symbol. People talked, as Donna Polland put it. It wasn't something that was done at the time. Priscilla herself was not seen as a transgressor. It was actually Paul and Anne Bobblehead that were held to blame. As adults, they understood the consequences, and as her parents, they should have protected Prissy. The Bobblehead's former across-the-hall neighbor and her parents of Prissy's good friend Debbie were aghast. All I recall, said Debbie, is my mother's comment. Well, we can figure out what that's all about. My friend Lori wrote me about it saying, this is the latest scandal. This is the gossip. Can you believe this is happening? Well, I know there was lots of gossip, confirmed Donna Wells, who had accompanied Priscilla to Elvis's house in Bad Nauheim 4 years earlier. Talk about Priscilla and her dad. Everybody was shocked that she did this because of her age and the way it was presented, that she was living with Elvis, that he was sending her to school, and that she was being chaperoned. The disapproval extended to Anne Bobblehead's family back in Connecticut. We all thought it was terrible, recalled Anne's cousin Margaret. That's funny, huh? Anne's cousin Margaret, like Aunt Margaret. Who was surprised that Anne sanctioned the arrangement. I have my opinion. I think it might be more Paul. He liked to be something important. Now, Priscilla, well, I'm not going to say that Presley name. That's not her name, in my opinion. Priscilla Bobblehead, years later at 51, had a difficult time answering whether she would have allowed her own daughter at 17 to move in with a rock star 11 years older. I don't know, she responded carefully, measuring her words. I can't say no. You know, my daughter has gone through things too. That as a parent, I have to kind of get into her head and see where she is. If she was truly in love with somebody and wanted to be with him, and that was the priority, and even though I knew she was going to make a mistake, you know, do I let her make her own mistakes and let her see? Or do I fight it and have her hate me? Well, Priscilla Bobblehead let the question dangle. Even if Prissy had been desperate to move in with Elvis, how could her parents have approved the romantic folly of a 17-year-old girl? One of Priscilla's closer friends in Wiesbaden, who knew of her apprehension, considered her in fantasy with Elvis, not love. We are talking about a 17-year-old girl dating the guy that every woman in the world wanted. I wouldn't say she wasn't excited. She talked about Elvis plenty, but I never heard her say that she was in love with him. But I'll tell you, if you ask whether a 17-year-old is enamored with the guy because he was a superstar, I'd say, yeah, that's true. Elvis to Priscilla may have represented an escape, a sanctuary from home life that was rumored to be unhappy, which would explain her eagerness at 14 to spend countless nights in the bed of a 25-year-old man. Priscilla Bobblehead revealed this in so many words to Barbara Walters in 1985. When she was asked if she was mad about Elvis, I was, she answered, then immediately added, but our relationship was very different. It was a very protective relationship from the beginning. I don't know what it was about him, but he kind of took me under his arm and nourished me in many ways. If there was abuse in the Bobblehead house and Elvis sensed it, he might have invited her to live at Graceland to protect her. And Priscilla may have seen it as a safer haven, for ultimately she did consent to go. There was a connection there, a soul contact between Elvis and Priscilla that bordered on the mystical and involved their complicated spiritual psychic connections to their dead parents. And what of Elvis? He was, it seemed, in love, but with what? Or whom? He was in love with ghosts, like the ghost of Deborah Paget, or the ghost of his dead twin, or the ghost of his late mother, and they all coexisted at least in his mind, and perhaps what we think, some of us think at least, maybe the ghost of Lucy Barbin from Are You Lonesome Tonight, the series I'm reading. His promise of marriage must have appeared to him a long way off in an uncertain future, since Prissy was just but 17 and would not begin to pressure him about it for several years, another benefit of her tender age. And Elvis, by everyone's account, was not the marrying kind. Colonel Parker had convinced him that marriage could damage his career and put a crimp in his dating pattern, neither of which Elvis Presley had been keen to sacrifice for any woman, including Prissy the bobblehead. Destiny is a funny thing, Jamie Lindbergh remarked, 34 years after his aborted love affair with Priscilla bobblehead. You really are not in control. You're along for the ride, so you might as well enjoy it. That actually takes us to the end of that chapter.
A new station alert has arrived.
A new station alert's arrived, I guess, for us here. Marriage and divorce, the dream becomes a nightmare. So it skips ahead a bit. Well, what do we think about that? Did we learn anything new? Did we have some of our suspicions affirmed? Child Bride is a very, very interesting read, and as I said, she really sourced this book out. I mean, let me see how many pages of sources. 1, 2, and these are lots of sources. I mean, so not just a couple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 pages of sources. That is quite a bit, especially when there seems to be, gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about, I don't know, 30 or 40 sources on each page. So she worked hard on this book. She documented it. And it's a great read so far. Well, I think that brings the end of this. And let me know what you think in the comments, obviously. I personally think Prissy B should lose the Presley name. Don't ya? Anyways, TCB TLC. This is Rare Photos. Until we meet again in another video.